Hello, everybody, and welcome to BC Buckets. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me today is Colin Mitchell. And today we have our first versus episode where we compare two players in this draft class and pick which one we like better. VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey. Edgecombe of Bailey of Rutgers, both freshmen, both highly touted players coming into the year, and both come into this. Honestly, part of the reason I want to do this is because Sixers fans are probably going to watch this and be like, tell us who to pick. Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe? Who do we want?
We should do that at the end of this. We should just say they should pick this.
That's what we'll do. But we'll talk through these players first, get full scouting reports, the strengths, the weaknesses, our question marks, our comparisons, everything in between. Who do you want to start with here, VJ or Ace?
Let's start with the one that is higher on most people's draft boards. We'll go with Ace Bailey.
We'll do it. Ace Bailey, Ace Bailey, 6'8", was listed at 6'10" at Rutgers throughout the year. Is not 6'10". I think most people watched him, didn't think he was really 6'10". He's still very, very tall, 6'8", long, good athleticism. Just about turned 19 years old. 17.6 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, 1.3 assists to 2 turnovers, 46% from the field, 34.5% from three. Ace Bailey is an absolutely unreal shot maker.
Yes.
And he played on a terrible Rutgers team, which we just talked about. If you go watch the Dylan Harper video on the channel, he had to make a lot of tough shots because he was not getting a lot of help outside of Dylan Harper. And the ability to make off-balance shots is something that has intrigued a lot of people. Has a lot of people ready to take him and ready to say he's the next Kevin Durant, he's the next Tracy McGrady, so on and so forth. I'm not there with him. I'm not running to put him into the top two. He's not top. He's not. I'll tell you this. He's not in the top 3 on my board.
Oh, wow.
But I do see the tools outside of the scoring. But let's stay on the scoring for a second. What did you enjoy about his ability to put the basketball in the hoop?
Yeah, I was telling you earlier today, I was watching some highlights of him, and every time he'd hit that Dirk fadeaway, you texted me, you said it's like crack, because every time it goes in, it's like it's just like, because you don't see that, and you see all the analytics, you see the threes, you see getting the rim, you don't see a face-up player anymore. And with him being, that's his game. He is a face-up isolation scorer, and that is his scoring game. He does it very well. It's not something where it's like flashes. He does it very well, very, very, very well. And he loves taking those mid-range shots, and I think there's definitely a place for that in the NBA. And if the way he's able to do it is just really just incredible. That's the only way I can describe it. Now, we'll talk about how much NBA teams might actually want that, but the fact that he's able to have such a incredible face-up game makes him exciting to watch. And if he's able to develop the rest of the part of his game in terms of mostly having the ball in his hands or kind of being able to be that off-ball player or connecting passer, it's going to be an incredible tool, because with perimeter shooting and that, it's going to be tough to guard him.
Yes. On catch and shoot threes, he was 38.4%, which is very, very good. The form is quick. I love the release. It's a high release as well. Obviously, when you're that height and you take as many contested shots as he does, he knows how to get a shot off. I thought he attacked gaps pretty well. Now we'll get into like the weaknesses of him as a player to getting to the rim, but like, he can attack some gaps and, get into that in-between range, which you mentioned. He is just a phenomenal mid-range scorer, has really good feel, even from like the kind of floater range. I think he's there. But those are tougher shots. And those are shots that, like you said, NBA teams may not want him to take as much of. But it'll be interesting to see. The shot selection is the shot selection, right? We know what it is. He was not on a great team. He had to take a lot of shots. But that's the player that he is. And when you look at him offensively, it's hard to envision a world where he's not a positive in the NBA.
I would agree.
Now, do we want to talk about the rest of the strengths, or we want to talk about the weaknesses on offense?
Let's keep this categorized. Let's talk about the weaknesses on offense.
Okay.
So with having that incredible game, you have to be able to be allowed to utilize it. When he comes in the NBA, he's not going to be able to be the isolation scorer because he's just not going to have the ball in his hands like that. His usage rate was what, 29%, 27%, 27.5%. That's not going to be the case in the NBA. And for him to get those opportunities, he's going to have to not turn the ball over, and he's going to have to be able to get to the rim. And when you talked about finishing and rim scoring earlier, he only shot 51% on layups and 42% in the half court at the rim.
16 of 38. It's not, the 42% is one number. The fact that he only got to the rim for 38 layups in 30 games.
Yeah. So most of his 2-point shots, or most of his shots, were just those mid-range shots that he's able to make so well. And that percentage is going to go down in the NBA. I mean, it's just they're better defenders, better athletes. And so that's going to be the concern offensively. Is he going to have a chance to showcase his offensive skill set? Because if he doesn't get the ball in his hands and isn't able to, not be one dimensional in the sense that everyone's going to know to only guard the jumper, then how does that really translate? Now, I will say, off ball, there's a very, very, very intriguing game to me. It's not the KD comparison or anything, but if he's able to continue cutting well and come off screens and pin downs and stuff like that, I think, because his footwork is so good, right? So even if he's not able to be the mid-range player, face-up player, he's still going to be able to come off screens and get those shots. And I think that's kind of more of where you'd like to see him, especially from three-point range.
Yeah, I think you laid everything out really well. The lack of rim pressure is astounding. Like, even Brandon Miller, who I was notoriously low on in that, not low. He was number 6 on my board.
Yeah,
okay? It wasn't like it was terrible,
but it was low and not a great draft. So yeah.
Well, that was a good draft. That was the Wemby draft. That was Wemby, Scoot, Thompson's.
But Wemby was really the only player that was like,
Okay, we're not revisiting the 2023 draft class. Regardless, Brandon Miller could not finish at the half court. Like, could not finish. That was my biggest gripe with him, was like, this dude is scared to death of finishing at the basket. Even he got to the rim like 80 plus times in the half court. And I understand it's completely different. He's playing Alabama versus Bailey at Rutgers. But like, still, there's just no real urgency for him to like get all the way to the basket. I thought there were a lot of times where he could have been there, and I'm like, oh, he's getting to the basket, and then all of a sudden he just like turns around and shoots a fadeaway jumper. I'm like,
hit it.
Okay,
probably.
Cool. All right, I guess so. So that is my problem with him offensively, and that's what really keeps me from diving in, because if I was lower on Brandon Miller than everybody else, I think Ace Bailey kind of falls into that range for me. In turn, they're very different players, but it's similar weakness in that respect. We should move on to VJ's offense ability and kind of compare the two here. They are quite different.
Yes, completely different.
And the last thing I'll say about Ace Bailey here, which I guess we can segue into VJ Edgecombe. One of the biggest things I like about VJ as compared to Ace is I think VJ is actually like a willing and able passer. I think he actually sees the court at a fairly high level. At 3.2 assists to 1.9 turnovers per game, as opposed to Ace, who was a negative. He was 1.3 assists to 2 turnovers. And again, different teams, whatever. I just think VJ processes the game a little bit more quickly when he gets downhill and when he, has to make a decision for his teammates. And so, I think that's where I start when comparing these two offensively. VJ is a much better passer and I think overall processor. And then you get to the fact that athletically, it's not close between these two.
Right.
Athletically, VJ Edgecombe is a fantastic leaper, a guy who can contort his body. Now, he also has some finishing problems, but I think I've seen him dunk enough basketballs and make some contact layups enough to where I honestly, it's not like the biggest hindrance for me for VJ. Even though I know it wasn't great, it still isn't like the biggest concern for me.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think touch and around the rim is something you can teach, but athleticism and physicality is not. And I think Ace, in that sense, lacks the physicality that VJ Edgecombe has. Now, obviously, he's not the scorer that Ace Bailey is, but I think his game translates a little bit better offensively in the NBA. You already mentioned his passing. He had a 19.2% assist rate. And I think right when he steps in, he's going to be a good connecting playmaker. I think if he's able to develop that part that Ace does so well in terms of the pull up, then he's going to be able to possibly be a secondary playmaker for a team. So I think that VJ has the ability, and I mentioned this before we started recording. VJ has skills that lay a good base, but Ace Bailey has the skills that you're supposed to develop after you develop the playmaking, you develop
Yeah.
the feel for the game and stuff like that. So they kind of are opposite in that sense, and I think VJ translates a lot better with that. Now, that's not to say he doesn't have his weaknesses. His catch and shoot threes are 36%, but in terms of the pull up, I already mentioned he shot 25% off the dribble, and if you want to be that secondary playmaker, you have to have the ball in your hands, and you're gonna have to deliver on that end. But I think he's able with his athleticism to attack closeouts, and if he's able to be that good shooter, then you're good. High free throw rate, 37% free throw rate.
Yeah.
Can get to the line, and that's gonna be much better if he can finish and be more confident there. So I think he has the foundation that Ace Bailey does not have on the offensive end.
Yeah, like athletically and a little burst, and he's not an isolation player by any means. The handle will have to
Right.
improve, but I do think there were enough times where he can catch the ball and either attack closeouts or attack a gap,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought he was very, very effective in that. And then also like transition, he's an incredible athlete, so that helps. But like he has a very good understanding of how to get downhill quickly, to change paces quickly. When he needs to dunk on somebody, dunks on it. Like he just knows how to get his own basket in the open court, and I think that's very valuable. You mentioned his shooting. The catch and shoots doesn't. I think he's going to be a good catch and shoot shooter, like in the NBA. The
Yeah.
pull up will have to improve, but watching him at Baylor throughout the year, from where he was in November, December, like once he got to conference, he kind of just took off. And he ended up shooting 39.1% from three on 92 attempts in 19 games. I have really no questions about him as a shooter. I think it's actually a strength in terms of what he could do on the catch. Now, off the dribble, these two are very different. Bailey is clearly more comfortable at fading and off balance shots and whatnot. But like, if I'm just looking at Edgecombe as a potential 3-and-D guy that also has this level of athleticism and open court tenacity, he's my number 3 player in the class.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And when we get to comps, I think there's a good kind of development arc for him. But yeah, I mean, you already mentioned too, 47% off screens, by the way, on jumpers. So he's really good off ball, and I think that's going to be the role he plays. I more so mentioned the catch and shoot to compare it to the off the dribble because that's going to kind of unlock his game if he's able to do that, because he is so athletic. He is able to kind of get downhill. Playmaking wise, though, in terms of ball handling, that's going to be a problem in terms of how he's able to break down a player. He really likes to do a push cross, but outside of that, he doesn't really have a whole lot and can kind of get sped up. So for him to develop into that, he's going to need to develop that self creation that Ace Bailey has a little bit more. I don't think Ace Bailey has that ball handling, but he's definitely obviously able to 1-2 dribble pull ups, or we already talked about that face up game he has. So
defensively, if we're comparing these two, very different
yeah.
players.
Yeah.
Do you lean to one over the other?
I don't even think it's close. I'm honestly shocked you asked me
Okay.
that.
Okay. So VJ
Yeah.
is a better defender.
Yeah.
But I do think I still think there's questions with VJ. Like overall, like I think he's a good defender. I don't think he's like an elite defender right now. I think he is a playmaker a little
I
bit
think
more.
I don't
2.1 steals. He has active hands. I liked what I saw there. But like he's kind of slight still a little bit, which he can put on some muscle. But I'd be interested to see him against an NBA guard, and like Brunson's putting his ass into him and just posting him up.
backing him down.
Like
Yeah, no.
that's obviously an extreme example, but like
Yeah.
I do think he is still has a work to do to be more of a physical presence as a defender.
I don't think he's a stopper or anything. I think defensive playmaker is what he is. I mean, he had how many steals did he have per game?
2.1.
2.1 steals per game. Also 0.6 blocks per game. And I know that's not like a crazy number or anything, but there's some highlights of him on help side defense getting some blocks, and it almost is like, could he be a secondary rim protector? Obviously not, because he's a guard. But that enough to me with his athletic skills translates well to me thinking, okay, yeah, at the point of attack or on the perimeter, he's going to be able to hold his own. And then when you talk about bigger guards or stronger guards who will back him down, I think that's all something that he can develop into. I mean, he's 19, so he's going to grow into his body. Whereas at Ace Bailey, I think it's very raw on the defensive end. I think he has the athletic ability to do it on defense, but I don't know if it's going to be like from a IQ perspective. Like obviously it's Rutgers too, so that hurts. But being more engaged, rotating off ball, he obviously has the length and the body for it. But I don't know in terms of being a playmaker if he's gonna be that like VJ is.
Yeah, he had 1.3 blocks per game, which is why I asked the question in the first place, because I do think like in an ideal world, if you take Ace Bailey, he's hitting these shots on offense, and then on the other end, he's actually able to like rotate and help and be long as a defender and impact some plays and whatnot. He doesn't even have to be great. He doesn't have to be anything special, but like, can you just be long? Can you just be like kind of aware at some things? And that's going to be the interesting test for him. But I do agree, VJ is a better defensive prospect. So with all that being said, I have too many questions for Ace Bailey right now to feel good about taking him at number 3, especially if I'm the Sixers. Like, I understand, you take a swing on a guy. I understand Paul George loves him. I don't know if you've seen the clips.
No.
You haven't? Paul George said this is Ace Bailey's the next star. I don't know if you buy into this, but
I'm big anti Paul George podcast.
And he might be right. Look, Ace Bailey could be a star, but there are way too many questions right now of him defensively finishing at the basket. Even he shot 69% on free throws.
Yeah.
Like, is that not concerning to some people? Like, I understand that I don't worry about him as a shooter, but like, that's not a super. We're going to talk about like Con Knipple and guys like that are shooting 85+% at the free throw line.
Right.
Like, it's not exactly a great indicator. The isolations, while he had a lot of them, he was only 33.7% as a field, like from the field on isolation attempts, which is 42nd percentile. It's just and then the real thing for me that drops me on Ace, and we talked about it earlier, but like 38 assists to 61 turnovers is an absurd number.
You know how you want to know? It is the second lowest for a lottery pick since 2020.
Yeah,
8.3%.
You know who first was?
Jordan Hawkins.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's a big Jordan Hawkins right now.
Well, defensively, I think he's better, but I mean,
yes.
I think he can stay on the floor maybe a little bit more than Jordan Hawkins, just because of that defense and size. But yeah, I mean, when you have a player that isn't able to, because again, what's going to get him to where he can take those isolation shots and do what he's good at, and it's going to be having to do all the things he's not so good at right now, because he's not going to go on the Sixers and be the guy that's going to have the ball in his hands 20% of the time. That's just not going to be it. So how do you see him project? And I don't think he has a necessarily super high ceiling because of all of the things that are so low.
Okay, so let's go to comps then.
Okay.
Ace Bailey.
So I love this comp for Ace Bailey, by the way.
Where you at?
Jaden McDaniels. That is my comp.
I don't love it, Colin.
What?
I love when we get the comps because we always.
This is the thing. This is the thing.
Disagree.
I'm taken aback.
Jaden McDaniels is a defender,
right? But he wasn't coming out of college.
Yeah. Okay.
So we trashed that at a college. Okay. We were like, he has the tools. He didn't have and obviously, when you're watching him play, he doesn't have the attitude of Jaden McDaniels is completely different than what Ace Bailey is.
Yes.
So
okay, as a prospect
in college, as a prospect, okay. So I think that's what he could turn into. I think he could be the guy that is going to be a defender primarily. He can get some baskets, but he's not going to be known for that. Like, he's not going to be KD, and I don't think that he should be with the way he plays. Second one I have is MPJ, but everyone kind of has that one.
Yeah, everyone has MPJ. I have that written down too, but that is one everybody has.
But Jaden McDaniels, I think, is a good kind of development arc for him, because if he can be a defender and just shoot the catch and shoot three, continue cutting well, be off ball well, not have to have too much offensive responsibility, I think that's how he fits into the NBA the most. Otherwise, I don't really see a path to stardom, which is why I don't have him as my third player.
Okay. Yet. Here's the ceiling that I have written down. Now, this isn't like a 1-for-1 comp, but this is like the ceiling I've written down. Brandon Ingram.
I see. I thought about that, but I
Bunch of
think Brandon.
mid-range fadeaways.
Yeah, but Brandon Ingram, I feel like was still more polished in terms of
Oh,
an
I'm
offensive
I'm talking,
player.
yeah, but I'm saying like that career,
Okay.
like that
Yeah.
ceiling wise, like what
Yeah.
would he make 2 All-Star games, 2, 3 All-Star
Yeah.
games,
So
Brandon Ingram, something
borderline all-star
like
type player.
can shoot the ball, but then will catch in the mid-range and like puts on a little bit like Ingram never really bulked up per se, but like, can
Yeah.
fade away and
Yeah.
do all those things. Is going to score the hell out the ball basically. So that's my first one. And then I have Rudy Gay written down just because a player that lived in the mid-range. I mean, kind of
That's an interesting.
that
That's
line.
interesting comp.
Yeah, so VJ Edgecombe comp, I have Donovan Mitchell.
God, dang it!
You had Donovan Mitchell?
I had Donovan Mitchell too.
Oh, look at us agreeing on
Because I
something.
think that that's a good arc. Because Donovan Mitchell out of
Louisville.
college, he was the defender. He was going to be the guy that was going to be the defensive player, and then all of a sudden came to life whenever he was able to develop with the ball in his hands. So,
Yeah,
I have ideal role Jimmy Butler style transformation
there
is
you
what
go.
I wrote down for
Something
VJ
like that.
Edgecombe.
2 other names I've written down: Jaylen Brown and Andrew Wiggins on the Warriors.
Andrew Wiggins on the Warriors, very specific.
Obviously, that's an NBA champion Wiggins that was very, very good defensively and could kind of make things happen.
Yeah. Also, like offensively, had a lot going for him.
Yeah, shout out to him. So again, those are the ceilings there. So again, if you're a Sixers fan watching, I'm saying I would rather have VJ Edgecombe.
Same. I would
I would rather have
VJ
VJ Edgecombe,
well.
and I understand Ace Bailey. I understand to a degree the hype, the excitement, the highlights, but VJ Edgecombe has some pretty awesome highlights too. If you just want like a 5-minute, just go Google VJ Edgecombe dunks. Like that'll get you going.
Yeah. Where's that one dunk at the on the US team when he's like in the air and he misses it, but it's like his head's above the rim and you're like, oh, like that's what kind of athlete this is.
Now, the only thing I'll say, and before we move on, we've been talking long enough, but the only thing I can't understand is them saying we already have Maxey and McCain. We don't want another guard.
Yeah, but
that elk.
Okay. The Orlando Magic drafted like 400 guards as well, and they picked. Oh, I guess they still have like 4, but But point being, it's like you gotta if you're picking number 3, you gotta draft for who you think can be a star. And I guess
I
if
would
you
say
think
trade
Ace
out of
Bailey,
the pick if you're
if you're worried about it. But I wouldn't be like, okay, because Ace Bailey to me is not a surefire.
Correct.
Like I can't even like he's not a 6 man. I don't think surefire 6 man. He's not a surefire. I wouldn't even say like scorer off the bench because again he has to have the ball in his hands. Whereas I think VJ Edgecombe has the floor to be on the court at all times. Like he could be like an Alex Caruso, like eventually. Yeah. And that he got paid how much? $80 million. So people are trading for him all over the place. So
yes. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Let us know what you think in the comments down below, and we will talk to y'all later.